everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Halftime Show with your host, Cortland Griffin. Man, I'm joined by some of the greatest minds, man. Last week, y'all caught the AFC South. We staying in the southeastern portion of the United States, and we're going into the NFC South. This is a very interesting division this year. It's a lot of teams that have playoff aspirations, a lot of teams that have won in the past and are revamping. There's some teams with young players that are coming in and looking to return to their former glory, and I got some of the voices that represent some of those teams. We're gonna get some of these guys in, man. Some of these guys and gals are new to the show. Some of these people have been on the show. You've seen them before. One of those faces is my guy, Damian Adams. He is representing the New Orleans Saints. What's up, DA?
What's good, man? Proud to be on the show. Happy to talk about my Saints anytime I can. So let's get it.
Man, new to the show, man. But new to me as well. But hopefully he can make it back at some point during the season, man. My guy Jeff Barnes representing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. How's it going, man?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
For sure. I appreciate you for coming through. I do have two other guests, but people do have some, there's some technical difficulties and some things are going on, but I understand. Hopefully they'll be able to come in and pop in. But we're gonna go on and get started. As y'all know, we got to start with our version of quick hits, man, called halftime adjustments. And I got two people, here, of course, representing two of arguably the best teams in the division. So why not? Let's get started with them first. Don't call it a comeback. The Saints went after having 2 years without Drew Brees. It's been 2 years removed from Drew Brees, number 9, captain of that team, and now Sean Payton also moving on from the Saints. Now they bring in a brand new signal caller, Derek Carr, former MVP candidate, former All-Pro guy, former Pro Bowl guy, been in the league for a while now. He's now joining that team. And then you get, the star wide receiver, of course, back. Chris Olave is coming back. What DA, what do you see? Can this team, or is this team a playoff contender as currently constructed?
We should be, right, with the division the way it is. Honestly, you could make an argument for all four teams with the way that the division is set up right now to be playoff contenders. But you look at us last year, the second half of the season, our defense was phenomenal second half of the season. Offense gave them nothing at all to help our defense out. So if our defense can come back and be even close to what they were the second half of last year, with the addition of Derek Carr, this should be a playoff team, because you think about Derek Carr, he's never played with an above average defense. Never with the Raiders in Oakland or Vegas. Never had an average defense. So he'll at least have an above average defense with the Saints. So you see him playing with that, and Chris Olave, hopefully, fingers crossed, Michael Thomas is healthy. If you have that, you have a playoff team.
Cool. I got Vashti here now, representing the Carolina Panthers. What's up, Vashti?
Hey, sorry, I don't know. I was listening and I don't know, but I'm here.
It's all good. If y'all don't know, Vashti is the founder, I believe, of Carolina Blitz. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yes. So catch her on Twitter, Carolina Blitz. She's everywhere. Anything North Carolina, Carolina Panthers, North Carolina basketball, North Carolina football, she's there. She's got it. She knows her stuff for sure. But speaking of the Panthers, I'm going to go ahead and get her on the Panthers, man. Don't laugh at the tag. Pound Town. It was a play on words. With them bringing in Miles Sanders from the Eagles, who's of course was on that Eagles rushing attack last year. You bring in Frank Reich as the coach. They had some additions with Jonathan Mingo as a rookie and those guys coming in. Jonathan Mingo's a bigger receiver. He's a very good blocker as well, coming from Ole Miss in the SEC. Vashti, do you think the Carolina Panthers could be a more run-heavy team than we've seen in the past?
Well, I don't know if we've seen it more than we've seen in the past. Historically, the Panthers have been a run-first team. Even when Cam Newton was quarterback, he was a mobile dual threat quarterback who raked up a lot of yards on the field, on the ground. So, but even with this new team and this new regime, Frank Wright has been very clear with the fact that the Panthers will be a run-first team. And that's why you bring in a guy like Deuce Staley to coach up your running backs and be the associate head coach. So absolutely. And I think it will benefit a rookie quarterback and Bryce Young to have a team that's centered around the run. So, yes, I do think the Panthers will be a run-first team, but that's not an anomaly for the franchise.
Yeah, and I see that. I definitely see that with this team. And then we're gonna keep it moving with the Tampa Bay Bucks. My guy Jeff Barnes down there, rubbing his hands like Birdman, waiting for the chance. Bucking the system, bucking the system, man. Tampa Bay is also a team that just got rid of a quarterback in this offseason. Many consider the GOAT, Tom Brady. We heard the Tampa Bay, and of course he came and won a Super Bowl there and delivered a championship back to Tampa Bay. But now they've got not only the rookie, or I should say the second-year guy in Trask, I believe. But they also now bring in Baker Mayfield, who's a former number 1 overall pick, been with Vashti's Carolina Panthers.
Too bad my camera isn't on because I'm laughing. But
the reason I laugh is because this is a couple of years ago when Baker Mayfield. This is a funny side story. Baker Mayfield had just signed with the Carolina Panthers, and I asked Vashti about Baker Mayfield, and her comments on it. That is a classic. That is a classic comment. And I'm not going to – I'll let her tell y'all what she said, but that was –
I don't remember what I said.
I think you said it was because of Sam – oh, yeah, because they had Sam Darnold. You said Baker Mayfield is just Sam Darnold with confidence. Yo, I was like, yo, that's crazy. That's a good way to put it, though. But the system, man.
I'm sorry. What did you say I said?
Very accurate.
You said that Baker Mayfield was just Sam Darnold with confidence.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what I said. Yeah,
exactly. But that goes into this question that I have about the Buccaneers. Do you think that the Bucs will have to kind of tailor this system, or maybe kind of dumb it down, seeing as they have now Baker Mayfield or a guy who's not played much in the NFL in Trask under center?
Well, that was always the plan, was to kind of scale it back. Tom Brady's gone. You don't have a Tom Brady under center. You have a young guy who you didn't prepare. Right? Let's think about last year when Tom Brady was gone. Right? They were preparing Blaine Gabbert to start. They were not preparing Kyle Trask to start last year. So he is technically behind the 8 ball, trying to come in this year and start right away. Now Baker Mayfield comes in. Of course, didn't work out in Carolina. We know how it ended in Cleveland. Goes to the Rams. The situation with the Rams is just falling apart, so he's not the long-term fix there. Tampa Bay gets him at a cheap amount. So he's a veteran, cheap amount. You get him in to compete with your young quarterback. And really, realistically, this team is going to take on more of a Todd Bowles look this year, not the Bruce Arians light team that you saw last year. So more run-heavy, tougher defense, which is why a lot of his draft picks early were on defense. This team is going to be more of a Todd Bowles type team. So more ground and pound. You got Rashad White. You got the running backs that they brought in. This is what it's going to be about. Chase Edmonds from Arizona. We loved him in Arizona. The guy at Fordham University in the Bronx. So Keyshawn Vaughn is still there. So you're going to have running back by committee, run the ball a lot more, control it. They brought in that defensive front to boost that defensive line, a lot of speed. Yaya Diaby in the 3rd round, of course, Kalijah Kancey in the 1st round. This team is going to be a more defensive-minded team than you saw in the past.
Cool. And shout out to Keyshawn Vaughn, man. Shout out to Nashville. I don't know if y'all know, but Nashville been kind of doing some weird things, man, with sports. Keyshawn Vaughn with the Bucs, of course, won a Super Bowl, man. He's a Maplewood product, rival to my high school, but that's neither here nor there. Shout out to him. Vandy product, but also Brandon Miller. I know we're doing NFL, but Brandon Miller out of Cane Ridge High School, man, going number 2 overall in the draft to the Carolina, not Carolina, the Charlotte, the Charlotte Hornets, man. Shout out to him, man, Nashville product. So shout out to them boys, and also the Tennessee State University, man. We getting hockey, first HBCU to do so, baby. So I'm being there. Hopefully, I can get into them schools. I'll get into them games, man. And I'm definitely getting a jersey. So, man, forever I rep my city, man. I'm telling you, Mike. So we're gonna get into the meat and potatoes of the show, man. Like I said, this is about the NFC South, and we're gonna do these position groups, man. Like I said, man, y'all mentioned some of the guys, some of the different things that are going on in this division, and some of the shuffling of these rosters. I'm gonna go around the room here and just want to get, man, who do y'all think is the best quarterback? I kind of feel like it's obvious, but again, we don't know because everyone's evaluation of the position is different. But who do y'all feel like is the best quarterback in this division? Vast, time coming to you first.
I mean, reluctantly, I'm going to say Derek Carr because, you know, the numbers don't lie. He's been the most productive quarterback in the NFC South with Bryce Young being a rookie, Ritter still being young and really not getting much, still getting his feet wet. And then I don't really need to say much on Baker Mayfield. And then Bryce Young is a rookie as well. So, I mean, you have two younger quarterbacks. You have Baker Mayfield, who is literally almost on his way out of the league. And then you have Derek Carr, who is a guy who has proven himself on the field. So I would go with Derek Carr being the best in the NFC South.
Okay. And Jeff, do you agree, man? Do you think Derek Carr is the head and shoulders, or do you think maybe one of these guys could catch him?
He's the only one that's entrenched. You think about all the other teams, yes. You may say the two younger quarterbacks in Ritter and Bryce Young are entrenched because they're the younger team guys that they're going to be building on. But you don't know what their ceiling is going to be yet. We're still talking about these guys like they're draft prospects because they're still in the early phase of their career. In Tampa, we don't even know who the starter is right now. So you can't even say Tampa's even in that mix. So right now, you got to go with the guy that's established, the guy that was brought in to lead that franchise back to the playoffs, and that's Derek Carr.
All right, it's about to get live, y'all. My guy Phoenix is just checked in the building. What's up, Phoenix, man?
Can y'all hear me good?
Yeah, for sure.
What's good, fellas? How we doing today?
Not bad of you.
Can't complain too much. I'm sorry for being late. I just got in town. Had a couple things I had to take care of. I know I said I was going to be here, but
Hey,
there was
Phoenix, it's all good, baby. It's all good. I'm going to catch you up, though, man. We're going to get you up to speed with everything. We talked about everybody else. I'm going to get your question in here, man. It's Return of the Dirty Birds. Return of the Dirty Birds. We know the Falcons, young team, made some major moves. Added some pieces, some veteran pieces to this defense. Of course, Arthur Smith now. This is, I think, his third season as the head coach. Now, second or third. Phoenix, correct me if I'm wrong. This is his third season as a head coach, correct?
we're going into Arthur Smith's third season as a head coach.
Third season as a head coach. Okay. Do you think that this team is talented enough as constructed to maybe win the NFC South outright?
So that's a good question. And I would be willing to say that the team is talented enough to win the NFC South outright if the Saints didn't make some decent improvements, if the Panthers weren't getting a little bit better. We know the Buccaneers still have a top-tier defense. I think that the roster is good enough to win the South or even make a playoff position, but I'm not confident in saying like outright.
Appreciate it. So Jeff just gave his take on the quarterbacks. Vashti gave her. We're doing the quarterback rankings. Who you think is the best quarterback in the division? So you just popped in. So DA, because your quarterback has pretty much been the consensus, I'm gonna save you for last. But Phoenix, who do you feel like is the best quarterback in this division?
I feel like the best quarterback in the division is Derek Carr because he's the most established quarterback. Like if the Buccaneers were to go with a Baker Mayfield as a starter, then you can probably make an argument. But the only thing that kind of discredits Baker in that sense is that he's on his third team in 2 years now. So it's really hard to say that he definitively would be one of the better. But right now, I would say for sure it's Derek Carr.
For sure. And DA, so your quarterback, of course, for your team is now the consensus, like it's a 3 out of 4 vote. With him being the best quarterback, like arguably the better quarterback, do you feel like maybe Bryce or Desmond Ridder could maybe vie for that top spot, given the way that their rosters are constructed?
Oh man, it's just so tough because we haven't seen that much of them. Ridder, we haven't seen Bryce at all. So it's tough to see if they can be at a level of a Derek Carr, who could be a Pro Bowl level quarterback. But with Bryce, I think the potential is there for him to be very special, and maybe in a year or two, he could be the best guy in his division. So I definitely can see it happening, just maybe not this year, because you're asking a lot of a rookie to be better than an established guy like Derek Carr.
Gotcha. And I'm gonna just be my 2 cents in there. I have Derek Carr, I don't have a lot of faith in. And I know there's some people that do have a lot of faith in Derek Carr because he was a former MVP candidate in 2016 and the things that he's done. He's been around the league. But I think Bryce, just from what I've seen on with like the camp tape and appreciate Vashon for posting some of that, it just looks like he's poised and he's a guy who has that moxie. To me, I think maybe by mid-season, we could be having a different conversation about who's the best quarterback in this position. But I'm gonna go to running back here. This is like the running back position for these divisions. It gets kind of murky in here because there's some questions. Each of these teams have some guys in there that you can argue. I'm gonna start with Jeff. Who do you feel like is the best running back in this division?
Best running back or best running back group?
Best running back, just best starter in the division.
That's really tough because this is a division with a lot of good running backs. Like you said, we got Rashad Wright here in Tampa. You just drafted a guy who was my top running back for the past 2 years on my college board in Bijan Robinson in Atlanta. I'm very tempted to say Bijan Robinson right off the bat, but you still got a guy in Carolina, right, who's a heck of a running back out of Oklahoma State. So going through all of these teams, you would want to lean towards Alvin Kamara, but will Alvin Kamara be there for 16 games this year? If his legal situation is adjudicated before the season, I expect at some point between 4 to 6 games for him where you're not going to have him. So judging by all of that, I'm very tempted to say Bijan Robinson, but if they're going to lean that way, I'm going to lean more towards New Orleans and Alvin Kamara because he's the biggest impact out of the backfield, not only in the running game, but in the passing game for any of these offenses. He's going to make that Saints offense go until you get a Michael Thomas back, until you get a rapport with those receivers. It's going to be about those running backs and Alvin Kamara doing a lot of different things for you on that Saints offense. And I think he's going to have the biggest impact. You have to rank him at the top of the positions right now at running back. But like I say, if Bijan Robinson comes out the gates hot, you got to swing the pendulum back that way.
So DA, what you think, man? That's high praise for your guy. And I don't have no qualms with number 41. I'm gonna go buy me a number 41 jersey, soon. So I mean, who you got?
Yeah, now Kamara is kind of similar to the quarterback situation. Kamara is the most established guy out of these guys in the division right now. But Bijan Robinson, man, as much as I hate to say anything nice about the Falcons, they got him one of those ones in Bijan Robinson because I think he's gonna be special. So I think that Kamara is the best right now, but the way that Atlanta's offense is run, I can see Bijan Robinson having a monster rookie season. So I'm gonna go Kamara with Bijan Robinson around his tails, to be determined.
Vashta, I mean, y'all added Miles Sanders.
Mad disrespectful. I'm not gonna be on here long, but y'all being mad disrespectful to Miles Sanders, who had the best numbers out of every guy on y'all are talking about. Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. This man had 1,200 yards rushing, 1,269 yards, 11 touchdowns. Performance-wise, he performed better than anybody else. And yes, Bijan Robinson was a beast in college, but we can't say that he's going to be a beast and then say, oh, we don't know about Bryce Young because he's a rookie. I would never put a rookie above a guy who has had 1,200 yards in a season. So hands down, no question, right now, based on the numbers, Miles Sanders.
Ooh. Hey, this is why I think I got to come back to the show because
Came in a little spicy, ain't
it
it?
came in spicy. I like it though. That's her though. I like it. So we got Miles Sanders, we got Alvin, we got maybe could be on Bijan. So I'm gonna come to Phoenix last. That's your guy, Phoenix. You was in the space, when after the draft, you was praising your guy, and I see why he was my top running back in the draft, and I think he's pro ready. Do you feel like maybe he could have an argument to be the best running back in this division?
So for me, the chalk answer would probably be like Alvin Kamara, and I'm gonna put it more centered like this. When it comes down to the running back positions, I'm gonna go with who I think had the best productivity for the team that they played on, and it was Tyler Algier. Now, again, Miles Sanders is coming off of an amazing season, but how much of that is predicated off of the system that he ran in Philadelphia? Like Alvin Kamara, he had under 1,000 yards. I think he had 2-3 touchdowns last year. Tyler Algier is the only running back returning in the South that actually had 1,000 yards last year. And the thing I tell people, he didn't get production until week 4 versus the Cleveland Browns. So Bijan off upside, we could say that, but just returning to their situation, returning to their team, and already have reps on the team based off of how they perform. If not Alvin Kamara, I'll say Tyler Algier, but I'll go Alvin Kamara just because of the dual threat that he is in the pass and in the run. Tyler Algier don't have that pass game the way that Kamara does. But to vantage point, Miles Sanders from what he was in Philadelphia could definitely be for the argument. I just need to see what he looks like in Carolina before I anoint him.
That's dope. And like I said, it's kind of scary because with these teams, like I said, there's so many different working parts. And I know in Tampa, there could be some a 2-headed monster. Carolina's
that cup is ugly. I just want to let you know that cup is ugly now.
And that's why I asked running back or running back group, because to me the best group is in Atlanta. You got Robinson and Algier. And Algier was highly underrated coming out of BYU, and he showed you what he was last year. But that group in Atlanta, those two together is a very deadly combination to get going. And look, I'm not sleeping on Carolina's group as well.
Oh no,
I think Miles Sanders. I like Miles Sanders coming out of Penn State. He did a great job in Philadelphia when he was there. I think what you're going to look at, there was a little bit of slippage. Yes, he had 1,200 yards last year, but the Philadelphia offense with all the weapons around it made it a lot easier to run the football. It's not going to be as diverse in Carolina, so there'll be a little crawl back along with the splitting time that he's going to do this year.
Yeah, and speaking of weapons, so Atlanta might have a Hydra in that backfield because they also have a guy who wears number 84 that also doubles sometime as a running back. But he also plays receiver. So we're gonna go to these receiver groups, and I'm coming to Vashti first. Vashti, that group in Carolina kind of nice. Do you feel like they may be the best group in this division?
No, I mean there's no true wide receiver one with DJ Moore gone. I think that Terrace Marshall Jr. has a breakout season. And then you have Adam Thielen, who has short hands, but his numbers are declining. He's an older guy. And you have DJ Shark, who has not been able to be consistently on the field, but the last time he was a Pro Bowl. He was a Pro Bowl wide receiver. But more importantly, they're receiving the ball from a rookie quarterback, and you just don't know what it's going to be. As good as I think Bryce Young is going to be, and seeing him at practice and interviewing him after practice and just seeing where his mindset is at, I absolutely see why the Panthers took him at number 1. And if I were a betting person, I would bet on him being a successful guy. But they're just questions when you have a rookie quarterback, and there's also an acclimation process. So, talent-wise, I think that there are other wide receiver groups who probably have more talent. I think that with the Panthers, you have guys who are good, guys who still have to prove themselves as well. And then Jonathan Mingo, who is also a rookie. So I wouldn't put Carolina in the top tier with that wide receiver group in the division.
Okay. So with that being said, arguably the better, it's two groups in this on this panel that are kind of competing in my head for that top spot. and it's the Saints and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm gonna come to the Saints guy first because they have a bit of an argument here with Chris Olave, and like you said, Mike Thomas is coming back. Do you feel like this team healthy has an argument to be that best wide receiver? DA.
Man, that word healthy is carrying a lot of weight in this argument for us because we haven't seen the healthy Michael Thomas in quite a while for us. So because of that, I'm gonna go with Tampa Bay. Yeah, it's been a minute. So with Tampa Bay, you got Mike Evans, who's Mr. Consistent, 1,000 yards every year, Godwin. So I'm gonna go Tampa Bay with the receiver group because of that. Now, if Michael Thomas is healthy, we saw Chris Olave have a monster rookie season. I believe with Derek Carr at quarterback, they could be just tremendous together. But I can't bet on that because we haven't seen a healthy Michael Thomas in so long. So I'm gonna go Tampa Bay.
Cool. So Jeff, that's our praise, man. I kind of agree. I think Michael Thomas kind of makes it even because Chris Olave showed up last year, and I think Tyquan Lewis is still there. Or is it Traquan or Tyquan?
Traquan Smith.
Traquan Smith. I don't know why Lewis. That's the defensive end for the Colts. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Same first name.
Quick question from the concerns that was in the group. Is the background noise a little bit louder? Is it better now?
It's better now.
All right, cool.
So Jeff, with that being said, man, like that group that they had down there, what's your take?
It's very close between the two. I'll be honest with you. A healthy Michael Thomas, when you look at it, Mike Evans, Mike Thomas, Chris Godwin, Chris Olave, those two cancel each other out. The ones and the twos for these two teams are excellent. But what you're going to look at is below that. When you talk about Russell Gage as your three, when you talk about Trey Palmer, the rookie coming in, when you talk about Kalen Geiger, when you talk about some of the guys, David Moore, the 3, 4, and 5 guys are the guys you look at and go, those guys could come in and contribute in different ways. They're not going to have huge seasons, but it's just a play here allows you to throw it to the other guys on the outside. And they need all of those guys here in Tampa Bay because even with those guys last year, you saw the struggles of the offense because their biggest weapon was the tight end that's no longer here in Gronkowski, right? And they haven't replaced that threat. So they're hoping that the young guys they brought in for the slot are going to be able to fill that in, helping Gage out, helping all those guys out to kind of give you back that production, especially in the red zone where they struggled the most last year. So they have quality tight ends, a lot of younger ones that we're hoping that are going to come in and create a bigger threat. But the receiver position needs that help, and it's going to come from those 3, 4, and 5 receivers here in Tampa Bay.
And there's another team in this division that has a very interesting wide receiver core because they're young. And they have a guy who plays tight end who is more of a wide receiver than a tight end, and that's the Atlanta Falcons. Phoenix, so we've heard, Tampa Bay is pretty much the consensus, number one, but do you feel like Atlanta could maybe move their way into that if those young guys take a step up?
So I think that the best opportunity that they have to move up is to get some good symmetry between Desmond Ridder, Drake London, and Kyle Pitts. We need to see what a Kyle Pitts looks like in the passing offense, what a quarterback that can push the ball down the field. We saw that when he played his rookie year with Matt Ryan. So now we get an opportunity to see what he looks like with a Desmond Ridder. As far as like the other receiver positions that we have, Mac Hollins is a good number 2 to Drake London as number 1, but he's not somebody that I expect to really blow the roof off the top. Or put up like crazy numbers. Scotty Miller, I think that he'll be a really good slot receiver. Actually, Jeff can probably tell us a little bit more about Scotty Miller and his days in the Bucs because he tore us up a couple games back in 2021. And we did re-sign Cordero Hodge, JJ Whiteside-Osega, I think it is. We got him, but I'm looking at him as more of a practice squad, like special teams player. So as long as we get good symmetry between the quarterback with Drake London, he cuts the fumbles down. Kyle Pitts come back and it's his generational projected self. And as long as the guys like Mac Hollins and Scotty Miller productive, I don't see us overtaking Tampa Bay, maybe fighting for New Orleans for second, but that would be what it is.
Cool. And like for me, like I said, like it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but because of all of the young potential in this division, the Saints, of course, are right there when they're healthy. Like you said, Drake London and those guys, and then I got high hopes for Jonathan Mingo. I'm sorry. I had him high on my board. I still got him high. I love the way that guy plays the game. So, and also Terrace Marshall is hard. I heard tearing it up. He looking like wide receiver #1. So we're gonna see what happens out there in the NFC South. It's gonna be really interesting with these passing attacks. But the way, go ahead.
I will say the one thing. I don't know if we're going to talk about it in depth, but as far as wide receivers are concerned, that was one position I was hoping Atlanta would have attacked a little bit more in the draft. I was upset that they didn't target wide receiver a little bit, but that just lets me know they probably might be, trusting what they're building right now. So that was my only concern.
For sure. So there's one way that you stop passing attacks, and each of these teams are interesting in the way that they go about it, because this is one of the few divisions where none of the defenses are terrible. Like, all of them have their ups and downs, but none of them are particularly terrible, right? They're all pretty good, middle of the pack or better. Who has the best overall defense in this division? I'm going to come to Jeff first.
Well, I'm going to go back to New Orleans because, I'm sorry, listen, the only reason that team was in contention for the playoffs last year was because of that defense. They kept them in a lot of games. They're still formidable. You look at all the changes they've had. They're still a tough defense up front. They're still tough in the secondary. Something that we look at now here in Tampa, like I said, we're getting younger. All right, we got a lot of core players still there, but they had to get younger up front. They added a lot of speed to the front. They added some pieces to the back. They were able to maintain the status quo at the linebacker position. Carolina, when you look at them, very aggressive defense, very tough. We don't know what their new scheme and what they're going to look like with that, but they were very small last year. They loaded a lot of big bodies in this year, so we're going to see how they turn out. I think that the transition is going to take a while for them, but once they get their defense going, they're going to be really, really tough. Atlanta, same thing. Another team that's retooling that defense first, trying to get it to the point where they're able to keep it in games, use the running game to hold people down. This division really starting to look a lot like each other. You don't have a team anymore like last couple of years. You could say it was Tampa Bay was that one team that threw it all over the yard and didn't really care if they stopped you. Now they have to stop you because they're in the same position as everybody else. They're trying to fill out their quarterback position. They got to rely on the running game. So I think overall, just because of the pieces, I think we have a very good defense, but I think we're number 2. New Orleans is number 1.
Got you. So Phoenix, man, like he said, y'all retooled that defense down there, but y'all got some pieces. I think y'all signed Jesse Bates, and then you also got AJ Terrell, who's one of the best coverage guys in the league. How do you feel about your defense, and do you feel like they could maybe compete for that top spot, or are they in that top spot?
So I love the additions that we did. The Jesse Bates move was an aggressive one. It let me know that this regime is committed to trying to build the defense. Calais Campbell, Caden Ellis, David Onyemata, I believe I got his name right.
Yeah.
Or wrong. So getting him, making the trade for Jeff Okudah, and actually to get him at the value that we did. He was the number 3 pick in the 2020 draft. To get him for a 5th round pick and pretty much have him play on a proven year before we look at 5th year options, to me, those were moves that were made that shows that this team is looking to finally build in areas that they have struggled in the past 7-8 years. As far as best, I think that we can contend for the best, but right now, I would have to say that it's probably going to be New Orleans. Like, they have the more established defense. They got better veteran pieces. I think that they have the best or second best linebacker in the NFC South in Demario Davis. I think that their cornerback tandem, they probably have the best, if not the second best, or I'll say arguably the best corner in the division, and Marshawn Lattimore. They have the same scheme that they've been running. They really don't lose a lot of pieces and rotate. So the Saints defense is one that always gives me fits. I think Carolina probably might have a strong argument to challenge them for that top spot. We might be wrestling in the middle of the pack, but if the team does what they need to do, I think that they can. I think that they can make their way from middle of the pack to contending for the top spot.
And so Vashon, like Carolina, I mean, of course, y'all got Brian Burns, who I feel like is arguably the best edge rusher in this division. Do you feel like this team, though they're young, if J.C. Horn can come back healthy, do you feel like they can continue to be one of the better defenses, if not the best defense in this division?
Yes, it's a short answer, but you just said, I mean, health is important. So Brian Burns will probably get a contract done before the season. They are transitioning to a new defensive scheme. There's an adjustment period, but they do have good pieces. J.C. Horn was injured during OTAs. Will he be healthy? Dante Jackson is coming off an Achilles injury, so you have that there. I liked the addition of Von Bell and Xavier Woods. I think they're going to be a slept-on safety group. And I'm concerned about edge. I feel like the Panthers should have added another edge rusher, but I do like Frankie Louvu and that linebacking piece. And somebody mentioned earlier about how I forgot which team they said kept them in games. The Carolina Panthers offense has been putrid. It was putrid under Matt Rule. And the only reason why they competed with Tampa Bay in that final game for a playoff was because of that defense. The guys, when I talk to them, they're saying they're able to play freer within this defensive scheme. So I think that there's an argument for the Panthers to be one of the better defenses in the in the division. But I mean, like you said, I don't think any of these defenses are really trash. So I think that, I can't say that one really sticks out than the others to me, but I do think the Panthers defense will be competitive, but health will be a big factor.
Yeah, health is a big factor. Health has been a big factor for Carolina, as well as the Falcons and also the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But no other team in this division has suffered more injuries or more detrimental injuries than the Saints. Injuries have kept them out of has kicked their seasons into first gear, for lack of better terms. Do you feel like this year coming back healthy, like you said, on the offensive side, but now the defensive side could see the Saints return to the quote-unquote catbird seat in this division? DA, I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, definitely health is a big part of it for sure. For sure. And I agree with everybody. They did a great job breaking down the defenses. My only concern for the Saints defense is D-line. We still got Cameron Jordan, but he's getting a little older. We did lose Onyemata to the Falcons, and we're depending on some young pieces to come in and try to produce right away on that defensive line. Now, because we do have two really good linebackers behind them, that will help with Demario Davis and Pete Werner. And like Phoenix mentioned with our secondary, but the defensive line does have to be productive, and that's the one thing I'm kind of concerned about.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny. This is a great segue into the next one. Everyone here mentioned the two position groups we're going to break down next. One of them is going to be the DB group. Who has the best group of DBs in this division? It's cool, and I'm sorry, Vashti had to leave. I understand, and it's understandable. We talked on the back channels. I appreciate her for coming through, Vashti. If you're listening to this, I appreciate you coming through, ma'am. Hopefully, we can get you back on the show in full capacity to talk to Carolina Panthers. Y'all go follow the Carolina Blitz. Go follow Vashti and Miss Carolina Blitz on Twitter. If you like Carolina, basketball, Carolina football, Charlotte Hornets. Anything Charlotte, North Carolina sports related, Vashti is your girl. She's going to get you right. And also Sheena Quick. Shout out to Sheena as well and what they're doing as women in sports. We need to start bigging up our sisters in sports as well, man, because it's a lot of them that are doing great things. And I'm going to have a couple of them on this show. Y'all can see some of them come through on this NFL Roundtable. So y'all can keep an eye on that. But I guess I'll represent the Carolina Panthers now. Cool. So we're going to talk about these DB groups. Phoenix, I'm going to come to you, man. I feel like arguably the Atlanta Falcons have one of the better DB groups, and y'all added to that. Do you feel like that DB group can be the cream of the crop in this division?
I feel like now it can, because if you were asking me about our last year group, I would have to strongly disagree with you. But now, like I said before, with the moves that we made, getting a Jeff Okudah, signing a Jesse Bates, pairing them with AJ Terrell, seeing what Richie Grant and Jalen Hawkins are going to look like, getting a Trey Flowers that I thought was a little bit of a steal in free agency, bringing in a veteran and Mike Hughes, ask Chiefs and Lions fans about him. I mean, there's only but so much I can expect. I think that the Carolina Panthers probably might be the tops when it comes down to the secondary group, just because they're led by J.C. Horn, and now they got Von Bell, who I think is going to be a really good safety to man that defense for them. But I have made some, I don't know if they're hot takes. I said that if the Falcons are healthy, we could be talking about top 10 secondary, like if things play out and Jeff Okudah plays to the level that we expected him to coming out of college.
I could definitely see that. I'm gonna come to you, Jeff. Who do you feel like Tampa Bay could compete? I mean, I know they lost some. I know they lost some pieces, but they've been pretty much intact too.
They've kept most of their DBs. You look at it, Carlton Davis is back. Jamel Dean's back. They got Ryan Neal at safety. Of course, Antoine Winfield, when healthy, is one of the top safeties in football. But I think, we talk about 1 and 2, right? Those guys in New Orleans, I don't think people talk about that defense enough, man. I mean, and if you look at the pieces they have now, okay, we think about them last year, how good that secondary was, okay? And as a draft guy, I'm going to tell you, there are very few draft guys that admit on air when they were wrong about a guy. I was wrong about Paulson Adebo. Okay, and there's a guy who played very well last year. I watched him at Stanford get toasted repeatedly when he came down to UCF. He had a lot of problems with speed receivers. He seemed to have figured it out when he got to New Orleans because he played very well last year. Okay, of course, on the opposite side, you got Lattimore. But now you add in a Tyrann Mathieu to that group. Okay, big upgrade at the safety position for those guys. So, and you talk about a secondary that was pretty good last year. Adding a Tyrann Mathieu to that group adds even more. You got a veteran like Bradley Roby that plays in the slot. So give credit to them in New Orleans. That is a great find. Everybody's upgraded their defense this year, but when you have a defense that was a top in the division last year and you upgrade it with more pieces, if they come together, they're just going to be really, really tough to score.
Man, and that's kind of the thing I was looking at. I'm like, this is a division with not many holes in the secondaries, man. DA, do you feel like the Saints are still the cream of the crop? Because I know a lot of people had them as numero uno as far as secondary alone goes.
Yeah, I think we have the best secondary, but like Phoenix was saying, Atlanta has a lot of potential with their secondary. If Acuna plays up to his potential, or what we think his potential is, that secondary can be scary over there. But with ours, man, Marshawn Lattimore, I believe, is so underrated as far as cornerbacks in the league. He's so good. He mentioned Paulson Adebo, who came in right away and played very, very well these last 2 years for us. Tyrann Mathieu, even Alontae Taylor, who was drafted last year by us, came in and played very well. Like, our secondary is deep, so I think our secondary is the best, but all these secondaries are pretty decent. Like they said earlier, the defenses in this division are pretty good. Like, if our offenses get up there to match the defenses, then we have a really good division.
So I guess I got to be a homer for Carolina now. But no, this is my honest picks, and it's kind of cool because Jeff is a draft guy. I'm a draft guy, so it's kind of cool. Like, I didn't even see San Diego coming. Like, I thought he would, like you said, he had a lot of issues with speed, and I kind of had questions about his long speed, so I never really saw him coming. So I'm going to admit on air, I just didn't see him coming. Like, I thought he would be at best a rotational guy, and I thought he would fit better as a safety at the next level than a corner. But he's proven us wrong. But this Carolina secondary, I just want to, as a draft guy, Jeff can probably appreciate this. So J.C. Horn was probably the best corner coming out of his draft, right? Then you turn around, you add Dante Jackson to that mix, but then C.J. Henderson, who was also a first-round draft pick, you get him from Jacksonville. He's now going to kick inside to the slot. This is going to be a very interesting Carolina Panthers secondary. It's going to be very interesting to see what they do and how they gel, definitely under this Vic Fangio defensive scheme, where he's going to run a lot of zone, mixing with some zone, kind of zone rush schemes. He's going to sprinkle in some man here and there. He loves to run like cover 4, cover 3 with a man, like with man up under it and trailing so he'll trail a guy with zone up under it, giving guys a chance to jump up under routes and undercut routes. It's going to be very interesting to see that. And then also you have Xavier Woods, who's going to move back to safety, Von Bell moving there. But then they also have Jeremy Chin, who's a very versatile piece, who can play slot corner or play safety. So this is going to be interesting. I'm just naming the pieces. I think this team, if healthy, this Carolina Panthers secondary, if healthy, could rival that of Atlanta and New Orleans. It's a very interesting dynamic there because all of these guys are supremely talented and were supremely talented in their respective draft classes and are now coming in and being a cohesive under one of the better defensive minds in the league in Vic Fangio. So we're going to see what that looks like. Like I said, it's going to be fun because these teams can throw it around the yard with all the weapons they have. So these secondaries are going to get tested. But moving on, there's another group on these defenses that you got to talk about, and that's the linebacker groups. Now I got my reservations. I think Tampa Bay is still the best linebacker group in this division, but I could be wrong. This is why I brought experts, because they know these teams better. Phoenix, I'm gonna come to you, man. Who do you feel like is the best linebacker group in this division, and why?
Well, if I had to go with who I believe the best linebacker group is, as much as it pains me to have to say this, I gotta say it's down there in New Orleans again. Once again, and I hate saying that. I want to rip my tongue out, but it like DeMario Davis being the man that mans that defense was really big. Like I said, I think that he's the best or the second best linebacker, but that unit as a whole is best. What do they look like now that Caden Ellis is moved over to the rivals in the Atlanta Falcons? I'm not 100% sure, but like from what I've seen right now, I'll definitely say it's the Saints. But keep your eyes on the Buccaneers as well. Like many people, myself included, think that they may take a little bit of a step back. The defense still pretty much got some pieces to it, so I wouldn't be surprised to see them lighten things up on that side of the ball.
Man, yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see. And so I'm gonna come to Jeff because he mentioned those guys. Levante David is still one of the best linebackers in the game. And then you still have the young man. We don't know what's going to shake out, with them. But hopefully number 45 is still in the Tampa Bay uniform come the beginning of the year. Do you think this Tampa Bay team could still hold that top spot as a linebacker group or maybe even compete with New Orleans?
They could. I'm going to give it to New Orleans for one reason right now. And I'm going to talk about the Bucs, but I'm giving New Orleans the credit right now. When you look at their linebackers and how they played, they're the better linebacking crew right now. The reason being because we love those two guys in the middle. David played amazing, getting older, so we got to admit there's going to be a little fall off from him. But Devin White has all the potential to be that and more. Problem was, it's still potential. We saw that last year where he kind of took that step back. And missed a lot of gaps in the running game, gave it some big runs, finally started to come back to fruition, started to have some issues being corrected on the sideline about some of those missed gaps, right? So there were things that with his game that they were brushed aside the first couple of years, but you start to see those warts last year. If he corrects that and gets that going, they'll definitely compete to be the best linebacking crew. And if you think about it, even with David getting older, you think about Savashe Dennis on the bench, possibly coming in to replace him in the next year or two. And you still got a guy like KJ Britt hanging around, who's a very solid backup as well. So depth-wise, they are quality. So if there's an injury, you have guys that can step right in and contribute. But overall, those two guys in the middle play very well together. We need more from Devin White.
Oh, for sure. So, Damian, I'm gonna come to you, man. It's a lot of high praise for the Saints in this chat. I wasn't expecting this. I thought it was gonna get a little spicy, but I guess not. Y'all respect each other too much. This is the AFC South.
I think we got all the hate out in the NFC South state of.
Oh man, yeah, for sure. Hey, shout out to Sports After Dark. If y'all in them spaces, man. Shout out to Ashley, Young Heavy. And those guys, man, it gets spicy in there, though.
Mark Gunn,
yeah, man. If you lighthearted, don't come in there. If you're sensitive, and if you don't know your stuff, do not come in Sports After Dark. You get cooked. But DA, so do you feel like DeMario with DeMario Davis and that group that's there, they're aging, but DeMario's still, for some, I don't know how he's doing it. He's got either LeBron James like playbook on keeping father time off, or what, or maybe it's his wife cooking. DeMario, shout out to your wife. We had at the Taste of the NFL, we had his wife's fish. That lady can cook. Go buy a cookbook. Go get her recipes because she can throw down. Shout out to her. Do you feel like this team can still hold up the standard that they had the last 4 or 5 years at the linebacker position?
Yeah, it just depends on DeMario Davis still having that youthful, exuberance about him. Because he's definitely one of the best linebackers in the league. I think Pete Werner is very underrated. He is definitely one of the best off-ball linebackers in the league, and Zach Bond is also very good. So I think that our linebacking can still be the best, but it all depends on how Davis is still holding up. But our other young linebackers there, and Warner and Bond, are also very, very good. So I think our linebacking core can definitely hold it together.
That's dope. I like the fact that Damon keeps it short, sweet, and like he's like boom to the point. It's kind of I be kind of wanting some more, but it's cool though. I get it. So I'm gonna throw again. I'm representing the Carolina Panthers now, but don't take this crazy. I think this is a team and a unit that's getting slept on. And the reason I say that is because yes, Frankie Louvu is young. Marquise Haynes is young. Not Marquise Haynes. No, yeah, Marquise Haynes is young. But Shaq Thompson is, to me, one of the most underrated guys in the middle of a defense because he's fast. He played outside linebacker. Now he's kicking inside, but he can cover slot receivers. You don't see a lot of linebackers that can do that, or even have the athletic ability to do that. Like the only other guys that I've seen do it are Fred. My man's out in
Fred Warner.
Fred Warner out in San Francisco. And I think that speaks volumes. But then you got Brian Burns, who's also, technically a linebacker, who's probably one of the best pass rushers, like I said, best pass rusher in the league. So when I look at it, you also got YGM, Yetter Gross-Matos, who's one of the top pass rushers in his draft class, and it's kind of similar to what Devin White. We've seen flashes of potential. Then we've seen him sustain it for like 2 or 3 games. Then he gets hurt, and then we see some more flashes. He's just yet to put it all together. I kind of feel like if he puts it all together with Louvu and Shaq Thompson and then Brian Burns, and then also, like I said, you got Marquise Haynes Sr., who can come in and do some things. Who knows? You never know with this Carolina Panthers team. Like I said, they're so young. We've only seen so much of them. So I put them at second and kind of on that fringe. But like I said, it's not a lot of gap in between these teams, man. And it's kind of interesting, to say the least, to see how close these teams are actually when you start to really break down the rosters. But here's where we start getting into the fun, right? This is where the fun starts. This might spice it up a little bit. We're going to get into the league standings. We're going to get into the division standings at the end of the season. I'm sorry. I skipped ahead. We're going to get to that last. After this, I need 2 storylines coming out of your team's camps going into the season. I'm going to come to you first, Jeff. I just need 2 storylines to watch for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Well, the low-hanging fruit is, of course, the race to replace Tom Brady. Is it going to be Baker Mayfield? Is it going to be the young Kyle Trask? That's going to be the battle everybody's going to watch this training camp. We're watching the mini camps, but it's going to be the training camp that decides that battle. Who comes in, who looks best in the preseason, who's out there, has the most control of the offense, is able to move the football consistently, not only in practice, but in games. So that's going to be storyline number 1. Number 2, whoever wins it, how long does Todd Bowles last, right? Because if they start out 1-4, 1-5, 0-4, 0-5, Todd Bowles is out of a job. Let's be realistic. The offseason was made by him gutting his coaching staff, bringing in a lot of talent that he wanted to make this team his. If it starts off slow, Are they going to really stick with him this whole season, or are they just going to blow it up at the end of the season? So if it comes out ugly with these quarterbacks and they're 1-4, 1-5, they're not making any headway in this division, don't be surprised if he's out in the first half of the season. They go through the season with an interim coach, bring in a coach that they really want to build with, and they go from there.
Do you think? I'm just going to ask this as because you said it. Do you think Bruce Arians pulls a Pat Riley and comes out the booth?
I don't think so. Usually, and I say this honestly, as a guy who's seen enough of these coaches retire, nobody's ever really retired, right? Usually, if they say they're retired and they want to come, and you give them the sweet enough offer, they'll come back. Bill Parcells has been retired 50 million times. It was Tom Moore that's on the staff here has been retired 15 times. Remember they gave him the big send off when he was coaching Peyton Manning. Oh, he's the guy that groomed Peyton Manning. He's retiring, and yet Tom Moore is still on the sideline now, right? So nobody's ever really retired. And he's not really retired now. He's in the front office helping. But I think he likes the freedom to come and go as he pleases, not be stuck here in the building, not have to be doing all the press stuff and doing all the stuff that head coach. I think he's had that headache enough. He's had the success. He got the Super Bowl as a head coach. I think he's had enough of that, at least for now. If he does come back, does he come back here in Tampa? Maybe, maybe not. But I think overall, it's going to be a new team with a new direction if Todd Bowles doesn't show the results early.
Got you. So, DA, what's two headlines to watch for the New Orleans Saints going into the 2023-24 season?
So, of course, the easy one is QB. You know, does Derek Carr come in, and is he the real answer to all the issues we had last year, right? Is he able to push the ball downfield? Is he able to protect the ball and not turn the ball over like they think Jameis would do, right? Is the biggest one, though, for me is coaching. Right, I feel like Dennis Allen last year lost us some games. Just to be frank, like there were some games that I know Jeff remembers. Monday Night Football, we're up the entire game, and then we just choke it away in the last like 3 minutes of the game on Monday Night Football against Tampa Bay. That's coaching. So for me, it's a big thing about Dennis Allen and Pete Carmichael, who's our offensive coordinator. Are they able to get it together on the offensive side of the ball and have us be productive on that side of the ball to at least give our defense some type of rest? Because our defense last year, like we all mentioned, was very good, especially the second half of the season, and it had no help at all. So if you get them some help, just be consistent. Just be decent. Don't be trash. That's all I'm asking. Don't be trash offense. And our defense will be able to give us, you know, a good enough record to contend for the division. So coaching and quarterbacking are our two biggest things, kind of very similar to what Tampa Bay is going through. But we know who our quarterback is. Just need to see if he's going to be enough to carry our offense to be productive.
Cool. I'm kind of asking y'all some extra questions in here as y'all mentioned stuff. I know Allen learned up under Sean Payton. Let's just say if Allen is out, Mike Kafka is a guy who could be in the running for a head coaching job here within the next season. I should say next season. There's also guys like Tim Kelly, who in Tennessee, who is a guy who could be up for a coaching job, a head coaching job, if he does well with his offense. Do you see them going in the direction of a more offensive-minded guy if Dennis Allen doesn't work out?
Yeah, if Dennis Allen has a really bad season, let's say we just totally just miss out on everything and we go 3 and whatever, he'll definitely be out. And I see us going in offensive direction. My dream guy would be the offense coordinator from the Lions, who turned down all the jobs this year. Maybe next year he'll be ready to, you know, saddle up and be a head coach. So you never know. But hopefully Dennis Allen learned from his mistakes last year. He'll come into this year and he'll be able to manage the clock better and be able to know when to let the offense coordinator do his thing and focus on the defense. So hopefully we'll see that this year. But if not, I can see him being out and us going in a different direction for sure.
Cool. Last but not least, I'm coming to my man Phoenix, man. What's two headlines that we should watch for the Atlanta Falcons?
So I think that the easy, just to kind of usher in a trifecta, the easy thing is quarterback. What does Desmond Ridder look like? Is he worth the Is he worth the investment of not pursuing a Lamar Jackson or not pursuing a top end quarterback in this free agency, not moving up to try to get one of the coveted quarterbacks, Anthony Richardson, CJ Stroud, or Bryce Young? Do you believe in Desmond Ridder based off of the 4 games? So I think that that's going to be one headline. I don't have coaching the way that they do because I think that the regime has a lot of faith in Arthur Smith. So I'm going to go with another top end pick that we had, and that was Kyle Pitts. Does Kyle Pitts come back into form? Does he get back to that generational tight end moniker that people had out for him, way back when he got drafted number 4 in 2021? Not too much on the defensive side of the ball because I think that there are things that they don't really expect, and the defense is going to come into itself. But Desmond Ridder and Kyle Pitts are going to be the main 2 storylines that we look at as Falcons fans throughout the season.
Oh man, it's gonna be interesting. So I'm gonna say this. Do you feel like if, let's just say, Kyle Pitts doesn't come into the tight end that we thought he was going to be coming out of Florida? They did bring in Jonnu Smith.
Underrated pickup.
Which hurt my heart because I knew for sure that he was coming back home. But that's neither here nor there. Do you think Kyle Pitts maybe could move out to wide receiver and we see him make a transition that some guys have struggled to make because he does have the body type. He runs a 4.4. It's not like he doesn't have physical gifts. Do you think maybe that would be a move that they could see? Because he played well at receiver. I think he had more than 65% of his yards at the receiver, like split out wide outside the numbers over the last 2 or 3, I think 2 years, 3 years.
So, and DA is going to get a little bit of PTSD when I say this, but I can see Kyle Pitts kind of transitioning into that Jimmy Graham role. The real question that's going to come behind that is, are we willing to pay him tight end to wide receiver money? So I don't think it's necessarily a skill set issue as far as moving him from tight end to wide receiver because he has the intangibles to be able to move out, split out, play X or Y. It's about when he's due up his contract. If he goes out there and performs to his numbers, are we willing to pay him top end wide receiver money? The market is increasing and the value of the wide receiver is growing thanks to the Devontae Adams, the Jamar Chase, the Justin Jeffersons, the Tyreek Hills of the world. He's going to want to get his money. Would you rather pay him tight end money or wide receiver money? I don't think that switching him out to wide receiver is an issue based off of skill. It'll come down to the financials in the future.
I appreciate that. And y'all, these are questions that are on the fly as they're talking. So they didn't get this in the show script. So appreciate these kind of minds when y'all get them. You know what I'm saying? Your boy's trying to – I'm trying to play, you know what I'm saying, Tony Stark, you know what I'm saying, Bruce Wayne, to bring the greatest minds, you know what I'm saying, together, you know what I'm saying, on one show. So I guess I got the Carolina Panthers, as y'all know. I think 2 headlines to watch for the Carolina Panthers is definitely going to be Phoenix. What you over there doing? Like in the toolbox? That's what.
My bad. I thought I muted.
Oh, you good, man. You good, man. It's cool to have some fun. I think the 2 headlines to watch. I'm gonna go away from the quarterback because, of course, that's the easy route. I think one storyline to watch is the Wonder Twins, Vic Fangio and Frank Reich joining up. 2 guys that have been head coaches in the league. Of course, Frank Reich now is a head coach. It's kind of weird. You don't normally see this happen in the league. You don't see a guy go from being a head coach to being a head coach, right? Like you don't normally see lateral moves. You normally see guys go from being a head coach to a coordinator, and then they come back up. Frank Reich is now head coach again in Carolina, so he's getting his second chance. But Vic Fangio goes from being the head coach in Denver to now being the DC in Carolina. These are 2 guys who are respected offensive minds and defensive minds, respectively, in the league. Can they come together and revamp a team that Matt Rule essentially was? I think it's safe to say he ruined that roster. So I want to see that storyline. I think is one to watch because, like I said, Frank Reich, we saw what he did in Philly. Then he came to Indianapolis, and they had a great first 2 or 3 years, and then it kind of fizzled out because of injuries and some other things. But now he's going. He's getting a guy. He helped spark his career. Miles Sanders. He helped spark Miles Sanders' career, so we get to see that. And then like Vic Fangio is getting some talent, young talent. on that defensive side. It's going to be interesting. I think the second storyline is going to be the wide receiver core for the Carolina Panthers. Can DJ Sharp prove his first round draft grade that he had? And he was picked in the first round. It didn't work out in Jacksonville. It didn't work out in Detroit. Now he's in Carolina. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does. Terrace Marshall, does he break out? Jonathan Mingo, does he have a solid season? And I mean, it's going to be, I'm going to add an extra one like I did for y'all. Who fills that role or the shoes of DJ Moore? It's going to be interesting to see. So now we get into the spicy part of the show. Now we get into the things. Okay, so now that we're here, it's interesting. I'm going to go ahead and put mine out there. Y'all can cook me in the comments if you want to. We need to tell you I'm here for it, and I got time today. But these are my standards, man. I went through a lot of kind of tinkering with this, and I have reasons for each one. I'll go through it. I got the Saints in number one because they're the most established team. They didn't have as much roster churn, and they're not as young as these other teams. Like you said, Derek, like y'all said previously, best defense, kind of the best groups of each, on each side of the ball. Of course, Derek Carr is the more established guy. I think with this team being healthy, it's going to be hard to beat a team that can win possibly 11 games. It's going to be hard to beat that. Definitely when your team is so young and there's so much variability on these other rosters. I ain't going to lie to you, man. I think the Falcons going to be a team to watch. I think they can win like 9 to 10 games, depending on health. And I think Desmond Ridder can put it together. I know people don't have a lot of faith in him because he's young, but I think of that class last year, he was the most well put together. And it's going to be interesting to see what he can do. The Panthers, I think, are going to be third, and it's simply based upon the coaching that they have. The minds that they have leading that team, I trust a little bit more than I trust Todd Bowles. It has nothing to do with talent. It has to do with the guys leading the charge. And the Buccaneers, I just don't trust Baker Mayfield. It's just put it out there. Baker Mayfield scares me. I saw what he did with the Cleveland roster. I felt like a playoff-ready roster. He won a playoff game, and then it slowly deteriorated. Then he goes to L.A. He gets everybody's hopes up. That didn't last long. And now he's in Tampa Bay, and he's got to follow up who many consider the GOAT. And that's another conversation for another show. But that's still regardless, it's like that's like trying to follow up LeBron James, trying to follow up Kobe, or trying to follow up like that's hard to do. Those are hard big shoes to fill. Terrell Owens didn't last long in San Francisco because he had to try to fill up shoes left by number 80. And he's a great receiver in his own right, but that's hard to do when there's a guy who's upper echelon, top 2, but maybe not 2, great like that. It's hard to come in, and he's a number 1 overall pick. It's a lot. So I just don't feel like – I feel like he's going to crumble under the pressure. I don't think he's going to become a diamond, and that's the only reason I have the Buccaneers at 4. But that's enough for me. I'm going to get to you guys. I'm going to go to Jeff. Jeff, I'm going to come to you, man. How do you think the NFC South is going to shake out?
Well, when you have a division like this that's, so defensive heavy, if you think about offensive heavy divisions, this one's very defensive heavy. So when you have that, I think it's going to be a very packed together division. I don't think you have teams that are going to be so separate, so far apart, right? I think they'll be all relatively close to each other. I think they're going to feed on each other a little too. A lot of splitting records, not a lot of sweeps going around in the division. So I have the Saints winning the division at 9-8. Followed by the Falcons at 7-10, followed by the Bucs at 6-11, and finally the Panthers at 5-12. I know if Ashley was here, she'd be sucking her teeth at me right now, but it's just because they're a young team. You got a new head coach, you got a new quarterback, you got a lot of new pieces still going on there. That team will flush itself out later in the season. It'll be a better team than it starts the season. The Buccaneers, like I said, unless they have that really bad start, like I said, that'll get Todd Bowles fired, they should still compete. But I think what you're going to look at is they're going to be, once again, a run-heavy team that's going to try and play more defensive football because they have a lot of questions at the quarterback position. Even if Baker Mayfield plays well in the preseason, at the end of the day, you don't want to put too much on Baker Mayfield's plate. It hasn't worked out when he's had to throw the ball 35, 40, 50 times a game. It's about keeping him in a happy medium, using that running game, utilizing that defense that your coach is a defensive-minded coach. As far as the Falcons, if you get Pitts back and he's healthy and he's productive and explosive again, it opens up everything. You got the 2 running backs. You have the young receiver on the outside. You have a quarterback who can manage the game. You don't need him to be spectacular, and I don't think Arthur Smith wants him to be spectacular. I think he has what he wants. He wants to run the football. He wants to be able to throw the football off the play action. He wants to be able to create the matchups. Pitts gives you that matchup nightmare. And he started to see it his rookie year. They didn't do it enough last year, and then he got hurt the boot. So I think if you get a healthy Pitts where he's explosive again, along with the guys they have around him that they're building with, I think overall they'll make that climb. They won't be winning the division, but I think overall they'll compete. So I have them at second at 7-10.
Cool. Yeah. And, oh man, I'm so mad that we let go of Arthur Smith, bro. I'm so mad we let him go. He deserves it though. If anybody deserves it, it's him.
Yeah, you can't stop the guy from wanting to be a head coach. You know?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I love Artie. Oh, I love Artie. If anybody knows, like, I love Artie. He was a tight ends coach for years here. Then he came offensive coordinator. And I remember as a Titans fan, this is just a tangent. People was like, Arthur Smith, tight ends coach? How he gonna coach offense? And I was like, hi, y'all.
Once it was made known that Arthur Smith was on the Falcons' radar as far as coaching, I didn't want anybody else but him.
Bro, I'm telling you. And then ever since then, bro, offensive coordinator is like, it's like a hard thing to find. Eric Bieniemy didn't want to be our offensive coordinator. It's crazy. But enough. We ain't talking about the NFC South here. Let's go. I'm going to Phoenix, man. I'm coming to you. How do you got this division shaking out?
I'm going to keep it as consistent as I did in Sports After Dark. Yeah. I got the Saints winning the division at 10-7, but I got them getting in on the last game of the season versus my beloved Birds. I got the Falcons going 10-7 and clinching the wild card spot. I think that 2 teams from this division get into the playoffs. Last year was just an arbitrary year. It happens every now and then where one team finishes bad in the division, and then next year the division as a whole bounces back. We just had that year. I believe that the Carolina Panthers are going to finish third at either 8-9 or 7-10. It's going to be a couple of growing pains at the beginning, but I do think that Bryce Young and that team is going to figure things out and start to look good at the end of the season. And then the Buccaneers, I do have them finishing last, not because I don't think that they're a talented team or I don't think they're a team that's going to compete. I think that when you look at the Buccaneers as a whole, they should be, not saying that they will be, but they should be in the running for Drake May or Caleb Williams next year. Like, I think that they got the pieces to be a quarterback away, showing how they competed for playoffs and won the division the last 3 years. Caleb Williams with a Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, everything they're building is so much better. You get through the year with Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask. If you're not really sold on Todd Bowles because there was turmoil within the coaching trees last year with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, then you go ahead and get him out of the way. You find your guy that you want to coach this team, to develop that young quarterback, and then you go from there. So I say that the Bucs finished last, and again, not because they're terrible, but because unlike what Carolina did, it gives them the perfect opportunity to get the necessary spot to pick their future quarterback without mortgaging your draft capital for the next year or two.
Yeah, and I think Jeff may disagree with this. I don't know, but I got like seven guys, and I say 7 to 10 guys that have day 1 to day 2 grades on them and the quarterback position alone. This may be the deepest quarterback draft we've seen. And honestly, even if they're not in that Caleb Williams, Drake May, shout out to UNC, we don't get a lot of football. Or, we get a guy we need to, we got to love him.
Look, and I want everybody that knows me that hears this, it's only UNC basketball that I hate.
Hey, I'm sorry. We can't help it. What do you want us to do?
Look, UNC. Look, I like Drake May, but if he dribbled the basketball, I'd hate his guts.
But I ain't gonna lie to you. I think Bo Nix is a name to watch, and I think he would fit perfectly down there in that Tampa Bay system. That's just me. I love Bo Nix, and a lot of people ain't high on him. I love Bo Nix though.
It was the Auburn years. That's why people still are.
Yeah, but that Oregon season, man, that Oregon season was crazy. He's on my early Heisman watch. But
it could be misleading.
I think from the first game against Georgia, he didn't take a sack until like the second to last game, or third to last game all season. So that Auburn tape, that Oregon tape is actually pretty legit too.
Man. Yeah. So DA, man, last but not least, how do you think this division is going to shake out? Your Saints have pretty much locked up the division. I don't know if you want to break it up or not. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know what your superstition is looking like. But how do you feel it's going to shake out?
Yeah, I'm definitely scared of all this Saints love that has been, poured on us during this podcast, because it's definitely just the superstitious side of me coming out with that for sure. But I got the Saints winning the division. I'm gonna go Saints at 10-7. I think Carolina's gonna surprise some people this year. I think Carolina's gonna finish second. I'm gonna say at 8-9. Then the Falcons at 8-9 as well. Them going back and forth for that second and third spot. I got the last. Like Phoenix was saying, they have talent. But I think that it's just going to be something that weighs on them. Usually you see it throughout a year when an offense can weigh on a defense and the defense gets worse because of it. I think that could happen with the Bucs this year, just because, like you said earlier, I don't trust Baker at all. Like, I don't trust Baker to throw me as far, like the old saying, I don't trust somebody as far as they can throw me. I don't trust Baker at all to do anything. So I'm right there with you on that. So I'm going Saints, Panthers, Falcons, then Bucs.
Yeah, and it's like I said, this division is so close because I didn't do records, but if I had to throw records, like I said, I mostly do like over unders, right? I got the Saints ceiling. I'm gonna do a ceiling here, floor here. Ceiling 13 for the Saints. The floor I think is 10. The ceiling for the Falcons 10 wins. I think the floor is 8. And the reason I say that the floor is 8 is because I think, like I said, I think Ritter puts it together this year. I think the game slows down, and I'm just looking at. I haven't seen him in person, right? But Malik Willis looks way better from versus year 1 to year 2. Ritter was better than Willis. So I'm hoping he's under Arthur Smith, who I respect with the utmost respect. Like, one of the better offensive minds in this game, knows how to get his guys in the right position at the right time. He knows how to utilize talent. He made Marcus Mariota look good, and then he made, when he was in Tennessee, I should say that. We're not gonna talk about the Falcons days, and he made Ryan Tannehill. He made people think Ryan Tannehill was a top 10 quarterback. So Desmond Ritter is better than Ryan Tannehill, in my opinion, right now. So I think that says a lot. The Panthers.
You really hate Ryan Tannehill, huh?
I don't hate him. It's how far can you go with him is the question. I think we've reached I think we've reached that. But every dog has his day. He had his 2 years ago. So, but that's also we're not talking about the Titans. Ceiling the ceiling for the Panthers. I'm gonna say 9 wins is the ceiling. The floor is 6. And the reason I give them such a gap, whereas I didn't give the other teams as big of a gap, is because of the variability of young quarterback. Hasn't played a snap, and you're thrusting him trial by fire. I don't like trial by fire, but when you got a guy who's drafted number 1 overall, he's a Heisman Trophy winner, graded off the scale, super uber accurate. It's kind of hard not to start that guy, right? And the fan bases kind of dictate that as well. But that variability. Right, you just don't know what could happen. He can start off hot and then tail off at the end. He can start off slow and then pick up at the end. It just kind of depends. So with the Buccaneers, the ceiling to me is 7 wins. The floor is 3. And the reason is because of what Jeff said earlier. If Todd Bowles starts slow, you can see them have a complete overhaul of this coaching staff mid-season, which can sometimes makes teams play inspired and they go on this really weird run, or sometimes teams just like they don't know what to do. The players kind of look flustered, and I don't think this roster is built to solidify and kind of say we got to play up under our interim coach and win games to make him look good. I just don't think they have that guy on the roster. I don't think they have that guy on this coaching staff that they're saying we're gonna play up under him because we respect him. I just don't see it. So, yeah, man, that's my takes on that. Again, fellas, I appreciate y'all for coming on, y'all. Hey, it's kind of crazy. I only plan these shows to go like 45 minutes, but they always end up going like an hour and a half. So maybe I should start telling people hour and a half, because we get into so much football talk, and it's so fun to have these guys on the show and these different personalities. And I appreciate y'all for taking time out of y'all day to come hang with your boy. If y'all can just tell people where to find yourselves, Phoenix, I'm gonna start with you, man. Tell them where to find you.
Even with sports or not with sports, you can find me on Twitter. My thoughts are my own. I talk sports, anime, movies, music, Pokemon. Came here for an event. Also, you can find me on TikTok as well at Phoenix Go Gravity, Phoenix the Boss. Come the beginning of the season, I will be doing a weekly top 10 quarterback ranking system week by week from where I have the rank at the beginning of the season. It will be a sports and coffee special that we're going to be doing every Wednesday, weekly sports and coffee. So check that out. But again, Phoenix the Boss, that's where you can find me out on Twitter, TikTok.
Hey, man, and really, y'all know this ain't the first time y'all are gonna see his face on here. This ain't the last time y'all are gonna see Phoenix face on this show. Phoenix is I respect this dude. I remember when he ain't had no profile picture. We was talking sports. So
we've been doing sports. Look, we've had agreements, we've had disagreements. At the end of the day, he's my guy.
Yeah, I respect this brother so much, man. I respect him. He's not a casual. He knows his stuff. So. And I wouldn't have had him on the show if he wasn't casual, because I like to pack people up. It's nothing for me. But shout out to him, man. Much respect to you, Jeff. Where can they find you, man? Where can they find you work? Just tell us about yourself, man.
Well, my list of shows seems to be growing every time I turn around at Team MBS Media. You can find me on Twitter at Jeff Barnes 29. Also at Cover 2 Draft, which was my original draft brand before I joined Team MBS. Also on Team MBS Media, I have the Bucks Weekly Show, which will be back this season. I'm also on Tuesday nights during the season, all the way up till after mini camps, which is a show I do with the owner of Team MBS Media, Joe Cardozo, Phil Daniels, former NFL player, and Andre AJ Jones, called The Perspective. So that's another show that I do. And then we have Draft Central, which is during draft season with myself and Bill Carroll. And whatever shows I seem to find myself on as we go along, you'll find my work there, as well as me running around the Florida area, not so much the country, going to college games and scouting during the season. So always busy, always up to something is how it goes for me.
Appreciate it, man. And hopefully we get him back on the show at some point, talk some Bucks and some draft, because I finally, you a draft guy, so you told me the wrong thing. I do a little draft thing myself, so.
Yeah, well, you got to come on Draft Central, and definitely, man, we're live all 3 days of the draft, so you're more than welcome to join us as well.
For sure. Yeah, I was there this year, so it was my first time covering the draft live, so it was a lot of fun. So definitely, I love contacting people who do draft stuff, because it kind of sharpens my skills for people that have been doing it longer than myself. So I appreciate you, Jeff, for coming on. Much respect to you, and much love and blessings to your endeavors as well. And my guy, DA. You gotta tell them where to find you, man, because this is a hard working man right here. If y'all ain't already know.
I appreciate that. Yeah, you can find me on social media at The Real Deal W. That's on pretty much all social media platforms. That's The Real Deal, W as in whiskey, D as in Delta, A as in Alpha. Wherever you do your social media, you'll find me. My podcast is called The Real Deal with Damian Adams, available on all podcast platforms. So if you like me and you wanted the green bubble people with your Android, you can find me on Spotify. You can find me on Google Podcasts. If you're on Team iPhone, you can find me on Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast. That's The Real Deal with Damian Adams, and on social media at The Real Deal WDA. You'll catch videos, like my man was saying, of all types of takes, from basketball to football to a lot of box and stuff as well. So please go check it out.
Man, I appreciate y'all. Again, man, I appreciate y'all. This has been the Halftime Show with your boy, Cortland Griffin. You can find me at Cortland Griffin on YouTube. You can also search the Halftime Show on YouTube. You can find all these episodes, including all the episodes of the NFL Roundtable that are coming up. You can also find me on 3-Point Conversion. You can find my draft coverage, my WNBA articles, my NFL articles, my NBA articles, my Just Because I Felt Like Writing Something That Day articles. It's all about sports. Also, you can track me down on Twitter at DC Griffey, on Instagram at DC Griffey, where I'm talking all kinds of crazy things, NBA, WNBA, NFL. So find me in Sports After Dark. Find me in Sports and Coffee. Find me in Gridiron Billies. Anywhere that there's sports being talked about on Twitter or within the Twitter space, I'm normally there. I'm either in the listeners commenting or I'm in the speakers talking crap to somebody or testing somebody's knowledge because I just felt like it that day. But this is my show. This is my brainchild. This is my endeavor. This is my thing that I get to control. But I also get to share this with people like Jeff, people like Phoenix, and people like Damien, who respect me enough to come on my show and share their time and knowledge. And I appreciate these brothers for supporting me. Also, shout out to Vashti. I cannot forget her. Like I said, she's one of the great minds. We do have to uplift our sisters that are in sports because this is a male-dominated brand, but these women are pioneering a lot of things, and they know their stuff too. Shout out to Ashley Baker, Sheena Quick. I'm missing some people, man.
Shout out to Dee, shout out to Magina,
Yes.
shout out to Megan, like everybody, all the ladies. Shout out to Jody, Chiefs Kingdom.
Yes.
Shout out to
Karita
Lexi.
Parks.
Also.
Yeah.
Shout out to Joy D'Angela, her
Yes.
NBA takes. I know she likes to get on here and talk her stuff.
For sure.
Like, she one of the best basketball minds that we see. Like, shout out to all the women in sport, man.
Shout out to the sisters in sports.
We as men have to do our part to continue to give them support, show them love, like help them grow. So
for sure. And
shout out to them.
this is a love fest, man. But Vashti, since I met her, man, when I was first doing ACC coverage, I was first covering live events. She helped me. So it's great that she was able to even show her face on this show, give her takes and put her name out there. And I'm going to do my best to put her name out there. Please follow her at Miss Carolina Blitz on Twitter. I think she's on Miss Carolina Blitz on Instagram as well. Follow the Carolina Blitz. Keep Blitzing on Twitter, and then search Carolina Blitz on Instagram. It'll pull her right up. She's doing so many great things with Carolina sports and Carolina media. Love to hear her talk, man. She's got a couple of different podcasts and different things she does. So the fact that she was able to come on here and talk Carolina Panthers with me is great because these are famous people, and I'm not quite that famous yet. So I'm trying to get there.
I like the positive affirmation. Yeah,
man, for sure. Y'all see, eventually under my name is going to be award-winning host of the Halftime Show. So we definitely going to speak that into existence.
For sure.
Man, like I said, man, this has been the Halftime Show, NFC South edition. Next week, I believe that we got one of the more interesting divisions. Let me check the schedule here. We've got, I believe, the AFC East next week. This is going to be fun. Boy, I tell you what. Yeah. We're gonna chop it up with some great minds, man. Y'all gotta tune in. I ain't gonna tell y'all who's gonna be on there. Y'all just gotta tune in for that one because we got some. I'm gonna take these guys off stream real quick. I'm gonna reveal the talking some Patriots and Bills and other and those teams in that division. It's gonna be real fun. The Jets, the Dolphins. So look out for them hype videos, man. Look out for the videos. I'm putting out videos for each team covering this. You know what I mean? This is an event, an 8-week event. We're gonna make sure we get it out there, man. This has been a Halftime Show with your boy Cortland Griffin. Tune in next week, next Thursday, same time, same crazy takes, same me, right? It's gonna be different faces, but I'm always gonna be here because this is my show. And I run this. Man, I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Peace.